Welcome back to the Skids and Giggles podcast. I am Pascal, chief instigator of this show and your host. I'm joined by my co-host and resident engineer, the yin to my yang, the goose to my maverick, Bryson. How's it going today?
Hey Pascal, it's good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks bud. Today we are joined by local legend and the godfather of Swiss slopestyle, Chris Räber. How's it going, Chris?
Oh guys, I'm doing good, thanks. Happy to be here. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I think all good. I think we have to clarify where you are sitting at the minute. And I think you're sitting in a restaurant. So what's for dinner?
Yes, dinner was a pizza. I am sitting in a pizzeria right now. We were on our way to Finale Ligure for Enduro weekend we had planned for a couple of months now. And due to the situation, we decided to switch that up, and we stayed in Ticino at a cool little camping place, and the local pizzeria was kind enough to lend me a table and some Wi-Fi for a couple hours.
Awesome. Well, we are again recording this on a Friday night, so I guess a quick beverage check is in order. Chris, what do you got?
Oh, this is cool. So the good thing about being stuck in Ticino is that I met a friend of mine who's actually the brewer of my favorite beer, and he happened to have some of this BLZ West Coast Ale on him, and yeah, turns out to be a good evening.
Oh, nice one. Bryson, please tell me you're not keeping it front feet today.
Yeah, I went against the grain, so I went with Brewmaster Edition 26 Red Rye IPA from Doppeloi in Winterthur. Craft Swiss beer.
Keeping it local.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sticking to my guns, and I'm going with my current favorite, the good old Brewdog Punk IPA.
Toast.
We also have to toast to our 10th anniversary episode today. So cheers, guys.
Clink.
Cheers.
Clink. Well, with all the beer talk out of the way, let's get down to business and just briefly do our usual spiel with the social and where you guys can find more information about the Skids and Giggles podcast. We are currently most active on Instagram, where you can skid right into our DMs and follow along at Skids and Giggles. And you can find our website with all the relevant links and info under the URL skidsandgiggles.com. Well, Chris, what is funny is that a good friend of yours, an old friend of yours, is actually a neighbor of mine, Thomas Schmucki. And I went for a ride with him last weekend, and he reckons he still did more bar spins in his life than you did, Chris. What have you got on this?
So that's a discussion that's been going on for years now. I met Schmucki in my apprenticeship in Roma when I was about 16 years old. And he was a pretty active BMX rider back then, and I was just getting into mountain bikes. And over all these years, I have never seen him do a bar spin. And so when we started riding more together, actually the last couple of years, I started like pushing him, like, Schmucki, do a bar spin. And he's like, no, I've done so many in my life. I'm like, then you know how to do it. Why don't you do it? And he said, oh, come on, leave me alone. I've done more bar spins in my life than you have. And I still don't believe that. But, yeah, that's my take on it. I say I beg to differ. But, yeah, he still insists on it. And someday, as soon as I get him to do a bar spin, I will leave him alone.
Has Schmucki ever seen you do a bar spin?
He has definitely seen me do a bar spin. Yes.
All right. Well, we offer to be the judge of this personal feud between the two of you guys. But let's leave that behind and move on to the main part for today. Chris, we obviously have quite a bit on the menu for today, apart from the pizza that you already had for dinner. But we like to start our conversations where all the good stories start, and that's usually at the beginning. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how you got into riding bikes, and of course then later on into slopestyle.
Yeah. So it was kind of like 3 stages that got me into bikes. First, I was a real passionate skateboarder, but I wasn't very good, but I was very passionate about it. I rode every day, all day, and every weekend. And then at some point, I went to school with a guy who was a really good dirt jump biker, and we ended up going to a skate park together. It was a skate park in under Balgrist, Solikreberg, up there, and there were some dirt jumps around the skate park, and he was riding the dirt jumps, I was skateboarding, and like I said, I wasn't very good, and then he took a break, and I took his bike and just jumped the big line, and he's like, oh, you should probably consider getting into bikes. And then I did consider getting into bikes, and I somehow got myself a bike, but I wasn't really into it yet. And then after that, me and my dad did a trip to Locks. He asked me, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, I want to try free riding. So we walked into a hotel up in Locks, and Seasons, Cam McCall's part from Seasons was on TV. So I saw Cam doing like super flips and stuff, and I'm like, oh, it is pretty cool, that slopestyle thing. But it was like, it's cool, but I'll probably not get into it. And then during my apprenticeship, I already had a pretty cool bike, and I was working in a bike shop, but I was not a mountain biker. I just had a cool bike, but I didn't really like ride it. And then one night, Greg was like, you should check out the freestyle park in Zurich. And I'm like, sure, why not? I went there, and there were some really good bikers there, and I didn't know what I was doing. I started talking to the guys, and then out of one of the ledges, I learned how to bunny hop, and then I'm like, oh, I want to take my feet off. I did a can that first night of actually really riding a park for the first time. And the second I landed back on my bike, I'm like, that's it. I'm in it for life. So yeah,
that's it. I'm a slopestyler now.
No, I was a skate park rider, but I was definitely into bikes. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like the 3-stage story of how I actually got into mountain bikes in the first place.
Oh, sweet. But yeah, so I mean, then of course, at some stage you just riding around the skate park wasn't quite enough, and you got into competition. How did that happen?
So I got real competitive real quick. So I was just riding those skate parks and tiny little dirt jumps at the local spot, and learning tricks like crazy. Like learned 360s a couple weeks in, learned tail whips pretty soon, bar spins, trucks, and all that stuff. So I was pretty good at doing like all those tricks in skate parks, like fly out, and good at street too. I would 360 down like stair sets and stuff. So I had a big trick bag, but I wasn't considered a slopestyle rider from like the Swiss scene, like the Flying Meadow guys and stuff. And so they made fun of me a lot because they'd invite me to like the early years of Rocket Air, and I'd do terrible because it was like real big step downs and big drops, and I'm a skate park kid. I'm not used to those dimensions. And then I started working. I'm like, I want to get better at that. But the guys, everyone was just making fun of me as a skate park kid with like, he's got a lot of tricks, but he can never do them on jumps. And then one year, it was pretty cool. They had the Swiss Dirt King in Steffisburg, which is the unofficial Swiss champions of dirt jump biking. And they asked me, are you going to show up? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then they started making fun of me, and I'm like, you know what? I'll come and I'll win. And that's kind of how it happened too. And from that moment on, I'm like, I think that's the moment I turned into a slopestyle rider and kind of left the tiny little skate park tricks behind me.
So from there, you went on to capture at least 2 more titles or wins in that year. That was 2015, wasn't it?
Yes, that was 2015, right? Yeah.
So you took part in the Monster Energy Best Trick Pfeffikon, then the Monster Energy Game of Bike. What were those competitions like?
That was kind of a fun time because that was like the time like dirt jumping was kind of becoming a little bit more mainstream in Switzerland, and the indoor bike park went up, like opened up something around there, and for promotions they did all those contests, and then I don't really remember the first one too well, the Monster Energy Jump Jam, but what I definitely remember was the game of bike. That was pretty cool because it was Monster Energy, so they invited a BMX rider and a mountain bike rider that were Monster sponsored, obviously thinking they were going to win. And yeah, so
is that not how these competitions go?
Usually, yeah. No, it was where was I? They were supposed to win, and then it was my local park. I was riding there almost every night, and I've had a couple tricks up my sleeve, and it was the game of bike format, like someone sets a trick and the other guys have to copy the trick or get a letter if they don't. And I had all my tricks up my sleeve. At the end, it was only Oscar Naj, the Hungarian monster rider, and me in the final. And that was pretty cool. I was like, oh my God, am I actually going to beat a monster athlete right now? And I was always really good at tiny little front flips, and there was this tiny little jump in the back of the indoor bike park. So I went straight there, and I said a front flip. I told everyone I'm going to front flip that jump, and I did, and he gave it a go, and it didn't work out well for him, and so I took that win, which was it was not a huge contest, but it was just fun it was a very fun time, and good for the ego, obviously, to beat one of the best of that time there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I guess an interesting question is in that regard is kind of like who are the riders at the time that inspired you to step up and to push. And then you mentioned Cam McCall, that you watch these videos, but I mean, locally, I mean, generally people don't live off of videos. They also like to have like their local heroes, let's say. And so who were the people that inspired you the most and pushed you the most and supported you the most?
So actually, yeah, you mentioned Cam again. Cam McCall and Aaron Chase are my two all-time favorite mountain bike riders, have always been. Cam mostly because he was the first rider I ever seen in that video back then, and Chase has that like very technical style and also like street moves. That's something that I personally enjoy a lot and kind of grew up with. So those are like the two big dogs that I look up to, and I also always kind of looked up to like Ramon Hunziker, the Swiss freeride legend, because he's just always been pushing, and he pushed for such a long time, and he was always really good at stuff that I was really bad at. He always had the mental game pretty strong, and I admired that a lot. Yeah, those are pretty much the riders that I looked up to. And of course, like anyone who has like who rides, just like I look up to so many people. Like even my roommate, he's a really good free rider. He has like a very special style. And when I go free riding with him, it's just like, oh man, he's so good. And I like try to feed off of anything that I see that anyone is really good at. I kind of like try to learn from it. And so I look up to a lot of riders and admire a lot of riders as well. Yeah.
You mentioned something interesting and something I'm personally quite interested in. And you said like the mental. So Ramon was having the mental game. So what is that something that you had to specifically work on? Is that something that has been, let's say, an issue or a roadblock for you, the mental game, or have you been specifically training to be better with that?
The mental game was definitely always something that I fought with a lot. It was never easy for me to do what I do. It wasn't natural for me. Like the fear, of course, what we do is very dangerous, and I always knew that. I got into riding, especially riding at the level that I did in competitions. I got into like at a very high age for a mountain bike slopestyle rider. I think I was like 19 or 20 or 21, 22 when I got really into slopestyle. So the mental game was always a big thing for me. It wasn't something that stopped me, but I definitely felt like I had to push more to achieve what I really wanted, the inner fight. But it was also something that I really liked. That's something that I learned to work with when I started, like, with the mindset that I want to push through these blocks. Like, I want to take these blocks, take this fear, and prove myself wrong. And that's just a feeling that's unbelievably good when you're scared of something and you can learn to trust yourself and trust your abilities and go off that. That's something that I really enjoy about the sport, scaring myself and proving myself that I can push through fear. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, absolutely. It's been actually a theme on quite a few of our conversations already. I mean, this is on the one hand the kind of the overcoming fear and then kind of mastering a challenge and how that reinforces the psyche to then always go one step further and pick a bigger challenge and then hopefully overcome that, and then that kind of reinforces the progression of the sport for me personally, for you personally, for Bryson personally, and that's, I think, what keeps people coming back. I think something I'm also quite interested in is kind of how you approach learning new tricks. You said learning new tricks is something that's coming pretty easily to you. So what is maybe if you can can tell, like, what is your approach when you learn new tricks?
That's actually funny because I rarely go out with the mindset I'm going to go learn this trick. I'm having a good session. Obviously, it was way easier when I was much younger and rode way more. But so how most of the tricks came to me was like having a good session and just trying. Like, I don't really want to learn a truck driver, but I might try a 180 bar and land the 180 bar. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Maybe I should try a 360 bar and just go for it and land it. So that's kind of like how I landed very many of my tricks, not going out saying I'm going to learn this trick today. It was just like they kind of just happened throughout the sessions, or someone was doing something and I was like, oh, I might try it too. So it worked for me. I slowly gathered all the tricks I needed to do these events, and I always had fun doing it. So I learned most of what I did or what I do in very fun sessions instead of hardcore training sessions. So yeah, I
guess that's one thing that to me kind of characterizes the difference between, my background is in the endurance side of things, like the racing side of things, and more recently the enduro side, which is slowly but surely moving towards how the community works in slopestyle and freestyle sports, right? Where the community is kind of pushing each other on. They're very supportive of each other, and they're like, as you described, right? So you go out, you have a great session, you challenge each other to trying a new trick, and inspire each other to try a new trick. And I think that's a very, very interesting dynamic. So yeah, maybe talking a little bit more about tricks. I mean, what has been the hardest trick so far to learn for you?
So yeah, that was a trick that I actually did set out with the mindset, I'm going to learn this trick. And it was the Cork 720 I did for my SZF Summer Challenge, because it was, first of all, at the time, it was not a trick that everyone had in the bag. That's changed real quickly, like over the years now. Everyone competing needs the trick. So it was kind of like a fairly new trick, or like one of the harder ones at the competitions. Then, since I was doing it for national TV, I had a due date when I had to learn the trick, and I also needed to build myself a jump that was perfect for the the trick, and being as ambitious as I am, I decided to not just build a jump, I decided to build a park. So
as you do.
Yeah, so I found some land, started working a lot, and then suddenly the due date's coming closer. I haven't really learned the trick yet, but I need the park to be ready by that day. So I was investing a lot of time into that park, finished it the day of the shoot, never landed the trick before, like in a foam pit or on an airbag, like never the way you want to land a trick in a foam pit or an airbag to know you can take it to dirt. So it was kind of just a wing it. So it was a very action-packed month, and I was lucky enough, and this is actually true, I was lucky enough to land it that day somehow. And so that was the hardest trick I've learned. I had to learn.
Okay, and have you ever used the trick again? Is it now in your standard repertoire, so to speak, or was it a kind of a one-off?
I think I only did it to dirt once, actually, but I had it after that day. I took a break, didn't do it for a while, and then I had it like perfect the first time I tried it again and did it mostly on the Skills Park airbag. Not that I didn't want to do it to dirt, it was mostly just throughout the full winter, so I was doing it a bunch and had it perfect for like a whole winter. By the time summer came, I had one crash on it, and that blew me off so hard that I never really tried it again. But I'm definitely gonna, it's good we're talking about this, because I'm definitely gonna try to get that one back, actually. Kind of forgot about it.
Well, it was basically just did it for TV, and that's once the camera's rolling.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
I hear from other slope stylers that training on the bag or training on the mulch is preferred to going straight to dirt. And can you, explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. It's become such a big part of the game. Like every slopestyle rider you see in all these contests is definitely training on bags and mulch jumps and foam pits. That's something I admired about the time that I got into the sport. Most of the stuff we had to do, like I learned my first backflip on dirt. I've never done a backflip before, and one of my friends was doing it. Actually, later on he became my roommate. But at that time, a good friend of mine, Pete Bolsert, he was doing backflips all over the place, and I had all the technical stuff, and I'm like, man, I need to learn backflips. And so I geared up with like all the protection I could find everywhere. Like, I had a full face helmet, I had the back and chest and arm protectors. I had everything you could find to somehow protect your body. And I just slammed myself into the ground for like 8 or 9 tries. And those are the things I really enjoyed about how we learned tricks back then. But nowadays, the sport needs these training opportunities that they have today for it to evolve, I think. You can't go learn 360 windshield wipers on a long, hard dirt jump nowadays, no.
So basically, it's giving you the insurance if you're coming up short or you're just trying something that you're not sure is going to work out. You have that little bit of cushioning, a little bit, but you have a lot more cushioning than a dirt landing.
So much more. All you get is burn marks from sliding down the bag, but that's about the worst that can happen on an airbag.
Yeah, I guess we also need to maybe point out or explain to the listener, for those that are not following slopestyle quite so closely, that some of the jumps that you guys are taking on are 3-4 meter high tables, 10-15 meter gaps. So if you come up short on something like that, then that's going to be serious trouble. And it's not like a simple dirt jump or a skate park. It's kind of some serious machinery that's being put out there to build these jumps, and quite some land that you actually need to build all that stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
And at these size of jumps, your under or over rotation in either axis is very critical as well, because it's really hard to recover after you're coming in with so much speed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you definitely have to train. I mean, even the airbag jumps are way bigger than the jumps we learned how to ride on. Also because you have to learn, if you learn how to flip a big jump, it's important that you know how to manage your air time, because the goal is the big jumps and not just like a fly out in a skate park. The goal is a big jump, so you want to train on a big jump. So these airbags have pretty decent dimensions by now, yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to get into the whole question of how the sport has changed in your time a little bit later on, but maybe just to wrap up or get back to kind of the whole trick question. So yeah, we talked about the hardest trick. So maybe if you can explain what is your favorite trick of all time and how has that evolved over time?
So obviously when I was younger, my favorite trick was always the hardest trick I had, which to a point actually, because then I kind of found the backflip tuck no hand, which was a trick that came really easy to me. It kind of looks good. It's not too hard. I can do it on huge jumps. So that was a trick that I did for many years in many competitions. It was definitely in my runs, in every single run, I'm pretty sure, of every contest I did for at least 3 or 4 years. Now, stuff's kind of changed. I really like the stylish stuff and the old school stuff, like the stuff that was cool when I started getting into this. And I think my favorite trick now is probably a very nice, clicked, long-held, sexy 360 tabletop. I think that's pretty much my go-to for now.
You can't beat old school style. It just can't beat it.
Yeah.
I've watched a few video of yours, and I also have a favorite trick that I like to see you perform. How does it rank on your list? Tuck no hander to bar spin. I think it looks very elegant.
Wow, that's a trick I haven't done in a while. It's a technical one. It's fun on bigger jumps, but obviously it's not a high-scoring trick in events. It's definitely something I do a lot in just sessions. You do a big trick on a jump, you go to the next jump, and it's kind of just like jibbing. You do a tuck. Oh, I got time for a bar. I always liked doing them, but it was never in my my all-time favorites. But another story is when you go to a 360 tuck to bar spin. I think that's a pretty cool trick, and also one that I enjoy. Yeah.
That would be 360 spin?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
Sounds technical.
But I think you bring up an interesting topic is the question how tricks are being rated, and sometimes the kids and we do enjoy watching Crankworks, Joyride, and all these kind of competitions. Take them to the jump park when the event is on down at Seal City, and sometimes you look at these jumps and you just think like. It's like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, if you remember that game on the PlayStation. You just do all these crazy combinations with your fingers. You get cramps in your fingers from all the combinations. But you just add more complexity and add one more bar spin, one more this and one more that. Can you explain a little bit how that whole grading and rating of jumps works?
So yeah, they have different criteria in bigger contests. I think like the diamond events have a pretty standard rating on what trick let's say it like this. It's you get different ratings for amplitude. Is it amplitude? How high you go? Yeah, exactly. It's technicality of the trick. And precision, like how nice the Bryson, help me out with the word.
Like, for example, if you rotated, then if you land straight rather than crooked, you get a better score for your precision.
That for sure, yeah. Yeah. So there's different criteria. I'm not a judge, so I don't know exactly like if a flip double tail whip scores more than like a front flip bar spin or a 360 rotation. But different criteria on the complete run. So mostly technical tricks do pretty well. So that's something you aim for.
There's also a fluidity rating on some competitions. Is that correct?
The flow is definitely rated as well, yeah. Like how smooth everything is, yeah.
Well, I guess our listeners they can all read up on your main achievements of your career, and of course there's been quite a few. But from your personal perspective, what are the highlights so far? And what are the things that you're most proud of at this stage?
I don't have any results that I can say, oh, I'm so proud of this and this result. I always did contests. I always enjoyed contests, but I was never like the top 10 at the huge events contest guy. So I think I'm very proud of how I managed that summer challenge, the Cork 720 task. That was a very intense time. I enjoyed it a lot, building, training, and actually succeeding it in the end. And something else that I'm very proud of now is looking back at everything I've done and where I'm standing now. Like, most of the friends that I started riding with, they don't really ride anymore, and I'm still like in such a core group of riders, and I'm like still a part of it. I haven't fallen off, and I'm actually very proud of still being a part of a sport that's dominated by people that are 10 years younger than me. And especially in Switzerland, I love my friends that I ride with, and it feels good to be like a respected part of that insanely talented group.
Okay, well, I mean, of course, right? So yes, I mean, I guess certainly competitive slopestyle appears to be from the outside in. I mean, I'm not, of course, not in competitive slopestyle, but from the outside in, it looks like a young man's sport. So I think it's, that you can still be in this is testament to your dedication to this sport and how much you've put in, how much work you put in. Bryson, you had something?
Yeah, touching back to how you started to learn your tricks. You basically went out there, did some sessions, said to yourself, oh, let me try this 180 or let me try this bar spin, and kind of no pressure session style, just going out for a ride and having a good time. In contrast, in 2019, when you did the SRF Summer Challenge, you really put yourself under some stress to not only learn this trick and land it, but also build that jump and a bike park. And so I see it as a contrast as to your normal style, your kind of normal style of doing things, right? Where you have this no pressure, just going to attempt it, give it a try. Hey, I can do it. Okay. And then you had to go into the heat of like getting all this done by a deadline, being on national television. Did you see it that way? Did you come across? Did it help you feel better about accomplishing that, knowing that you did it outside of the box, outside of your comfort zone?
At that time, I was just happy to have it over with. Really, it was such a stressful month. Thinking back, like I said in the beginning, I really enjoy the scare yourself and prove yourself wrong factor. And that was a huge factor in that challenge, since it was like actually there. Usually I'm standing at a start and like, okay, this jump is huge, but you know how to do the trick. And on this scenario, it was like, all right, this jump is big and you don't know how to do the trick. So that made it feel way, way better, because it was, I pushed through fear and unknowing on that thing. So that was pretty cool. And also, like, I for some reason, I don't know why, because I'm not usually the type that works well under pressure, but in riding, I somehow do work well under pressure. Like I've had contest days where I could barely clear the course, and then come my run, I'd put down a perfect run. And that's always been something, when I realized that works, it was something I could count on, and it would make the terrible days way easier knowing that it's probably going to go well under pressure. So
Perhaps it's that in the zone effect, the flow.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it really came out that way in this SRF program. I watched it recently, and it's you can really see I don't know if it was dramatic effect that they added with the camera and everything like that, but you didn't make it after the second attempt. And then at the third one, you're just like, this is it. And you just charge down the ramp, you clean the first one, and then, clean the Cork 720s. It was really inspiring. They had like a panning shot, like aerial shot. It's very cool. Must have felt good.
It did feel good, especially because, man, I don't know if I can say this. Oh, man, it's been a while. I can definitely say this. So they actually did put 3 takes into the video that they showed, but it was more like 9.
Oh,
so my body was pretty banged up by the time I actually landed it, and it was a couple of very bad hits. So it felt amazing to actually land.
Can I have a Big Mac now? This is like my 9th try, guys. Come on, I need a break here.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I didn't want to give up on it either, because it was like, if I'd fail, the show would go out, and all of Switzerland would know I messed it up, and I really didn't want that to happen. So, yeah.
right. Well, you don't have anything to fear. I think you backed it up pretty solid with a win at the FMB Bronze event, Swiss Dirt Series Davos in 2020. So, what does your riding look today? Last time we rode together, you had an enduro bike. And I didn't expect that, actually. I just expected you to come out on like a full suspension dirt jumper maybe, or something else. And you were just jibbing and having fun on the enduro bike. So it's really cool to see how you translated everything from your dirt bike into a normal mountain bike.
Yeah, I mean, becoming a part of the dirt jump scene, definitely, all my friends ride bikes. A lot of the guys that I grew up dirt jumping with switched to enduro bikes. So at some point I had to get me an enduro bike, but it's not like I had to. It was, I love everything about riding bikes, no matter what. Actually, even when I broke my arm, Trek gave me a gravel bike for a while. So I would actually go graveling, and then I went to Finale and actually did some road biking even. It's not like I enjoy that anything near as much as riding an enduro bike or a dirt jump bike, but I just love riding anything. So you'll definitely see me out on enduro trails, and maybe even doing some cross-country climbs someday. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Why not?
Go with the flow.
Exactly. Hill climb challenge next.
Oh, God.
That's definitely gonna put you out of your comfort zone. Some good old hill repeats.
There you go. Some sprints. No.
Exactly. No thanks.
Do you have any favorite spots around? Because you were in Zurich before, correct?
I mean, I lived in Bremgarten for many years. I live in Wettingen by Baden now, which is both. It's been pretty close to Zurich for the last years, and I'm definitely in Zurich. I'm in the jump park a lot. In the evenings after work, or in the summertime before work, I enjoy just riding the Uetliberg trails on an enduro bike. But definitely, like, my favorite spots of riding, I'm pretty sure I'd have to say it's probably Highlands Mountain Bike Park in Northfield, New Hampshire, USA.
That's very interesting. I'm very curious to hear about your connection with Highland Mountain Bike Park. I know Aaron Chase is a local there.
Yeah, he is. He grew up a couple towns over. He actually, when I started going there, he was still living down in Jersey, but he'd shoot by every once in a while. It was actually kind of cool because when I finished my apprenticeship, and by the time I finished, I was pretty like focused on, I want to see if I can somehow become a pro mountain biker. And since I have an American passport, I figured, I'll just get on a plane and go to America and figure out, like, see what happens. So I ended up at my grandma's house first, and then I bought a car, drove up to Highland, and it was actually pretty funny. The whole story of how I got into Highland was I went up there for a weekend, met some guys, drove back down to my grandma's. It's like a 6-hour drive. And then I think like 2 or 3 weekends later, I drove back up and was hanging out with the guys that I met a couple weeks ago. They were all employees at Highland. And then the Hurricane Sandy hit, and roads were closed. I couldn't leave. I couldn't go home to New Jersey. All I had was my Jeep and my bike. So I put my Jeep in the woods behind the training center in Highland. And then someone went to the boss, like the owner, Mark Hayes, and he's like, so there's a Swiss kid living in the woods during a hurricane. And Mark was like, get him in the like employee housing right now. So I got into employee housing, and my weekend ended up turning into a month. I started coaching and working in the bike shop, and became very good friends with the core Highland family, and I've been returning almost every year since. That was, I think, 2012 or 13.
Sounds like a series of very fortunate events.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, and Highland in general, it's just like, it's a tiny little hill in Northfield, New Hampshire, and it has everything. It's like, it has insane downhill riding. It has like the best slopestyle training conditions. It has awesome, like, you know, American East Coast trails for dirt jumping. It has the indoor skate park. And yeah, like there's pros there all the time. Like Aaron, he actually moved back there a couple years ago, Aaron Chase, and he's been riding there almost daily for the last couple years. So it's always cool to like actually meet your heroes and become friends with them and actually ride with them, and not just like meet them at I don't know, like a video premiere or something. So that's pretty cool. It's a great place. I encourage anyone who has the chance to go there.
Obviously one question I'm really interested in is, of course, to kind of get your perspective on on how the sport has changed over the years that you've been involved in, and a little bit what is better, what is worse, because of course it used to be pretty much grassroots at the time when you started, and now it's obviously very in some parts it's pretty progressed and professional. So what is your take on this?
So obviously it's become a huge sport. It has a lot of coverage. So all in all, it's definitely changed to the better. It's become huge. People see it with all the YouTubes and video parts that are going out. It definitely has potential to reach a lot of people. The sport itself, like the level of riding, we already covered that with the airbag and like training conversation we just had. What's definitely changed like about the sport is like the gnarliness. The videos that I really, grew up watching was definitely the ones you guys did as well, like the Cranked and the New World Disorders. And if you watch YouTube videos of like the 2008 or 2009 Crankworks, you see how like rough they are and huge. And now it's all like insanely groomed, perfect tracks. Personally, I'd like if it were a bit rougher. I think that free ride aspect, I just think it's gnarly and cool and badass. But all in all, the sport's evolved to be something amazing. It's huge and reaching a lot of people. I like that about it.
What's the con?
The con? Well, like any sport now, I really don't like how dependent it is on social media. it's just I always admired riders for their riding and how they work on it, and not how they like cut their vlogs and how do you say it? Yeah, just manage their social media. I know it's a huge part of the sport, or any sport by now, but I fell in love with the sport of just like the skills these people needed and the balls they needed to do this. And I don't think having to have a super active social media should be a part of any athlete, but sadly it is, and it's not going to change. But all in all, everything is really, really good.
Okay. What's if you think back, of course, when if you look at your trajectory, there's obviously a lot of hustle involved in getting the support that you needed and getting to where you got. But so if you look at the younger talents today, especially in Switzerland, we have, I think, a couple of very good examples. What are the development paths for let's say a young dirt jumper or a young slopestyler today? Is that much improved from when you were starting, or is it still kind of the same?
Something that's definitely improved is the infrastructure. Like, for me to like get introduced into mountain biking, I had to like be as lucky as I was to actually like meet that guy and walk in on that video and somehow have someone convince me to go ride a skate park. And now you have like pump tracks in every town. It's like a playground that introduces you to mountain biking, that like awakes your interest. You have dirt jump parks popping up everywhere. You have dirt jump parks in the middle of the city. You have NT Dirt. You have City Trails Jump Park, which is literally jump parks in the middle of the city. I don't know any other place that have dirt jump parks in the middle of the city than Switzerland. And I think that's so cool, because you had to somehow be so deep into the scene to know where the jump parks were before. And now you can just like walk by and somehow see these guys and then buy an online bike or walk to your next bike shop and get into it. And I think that's really cool for like getting introduced to it. And then, like we talked about earlier, the training infrastructure is just insane, with airbags, with Skills Park, with Bike Park, Oberriet, Swiss Bike Park, all the pump tracks, because even pump track riding is a huge advantage for getting into dirt jumping and slope styling. We don't even have to talk about how many skate parks there are out there. So it's so much easier to get introduced to the sport. And when you actually catch the fire and like want to become a part of it, it's so easy to also progress now. And I think that's definitely something that's really cool about how it's evolved.
Hearing you talk about it makes you really excited to go for a bike ride.
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're in Ticino and you're going right tomorrow, and we'll have snow. We'll have snow on the weekend.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. No. Anyway, you're talking about young riders. I mean, you have been, it's public information. You've been very close to the development of Lucas Huppot, Huppy as he's known, Huppinator, as some of his friends call him. What is your insight into his career so far, and how he has mastered his own path?
So Huppy, that kid's a story, man. He's I met Huppy while I was riding our dirt park Sikenthal. That's a park my friends started probably around 2006, and then when I got into mountain biking, I got into that group too. And then someday, this young kid on a yellow Norco, I think he was like 9 years old. He was just standing at the fence, like, "Hey, can I ride?" And we were like, "Sure, come on in." So, and then he was always like the little guy. At first, and then he had like a huge, he grew probably like 20 centimeters in a year. In the first year that I was in America, I came back and he was like the same size as me. No, but Hoopy, he grew up racing BMX and four cross. So I think that's a very good, really good, a good foundation for if you want to become a mountain biker. So he already had a ton of bike control when that little kid showed up at that park. Then he had ambition like no one I've ever known. He would actually like lay out mattresses and like a tiny little plastic kicker in his backyard. He'd like take down his bed mattress and his sheets and pillows and actually like try to learn 360s off of that little kicker. And he'd do that like on his own at home when his parents weren't watching if he was taking him down the mattress. And then another huge thing about him is just the talent. Like, it didn't take long to see that this kid had talent like no one I've ever met. Like, I knew how much work I had to put into learning tricks. I always say I don't have talent. I had the ambition mostly. So it took me like 3 days nonstop from like 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night to land my first tail whip. I remembered I'd get up early, take the train to some spot, and just try tail whips all day, nothing but tail whips. And I'm pretty sure when I think I taught Hoopy tail whips, and he had it like first try with some
That's
like.
not fair.
No, it wasn't. But no, it's awesome. Like knowing that kid, he has definitely become like a brother to me. We've done so many contests, we do so many trips, and I think people that know us a lot, they know we're like actually like brothers. We fight a lot, we yell at each other, we annoy the crap out of each other, but I love him like a brother, and it's been like that for years. And he's also like a big part of where I am, because he was always like, it was always cool having like little Hoopy like looking up to you and helping me, like him even telling me, "Oh, Chris, you got this," was like, it was always cool. So yeah, Hoopy's just insanely talented, insanely ambitious, motivated, and he's put in so much work over all these years, and I think he's going a really good path. Like he's now done with his apprenticeship. And he was lucky enough to find supporters that enable it for him to, or make it possible for him to actually be a full-on professional mountain biker now. And that was definitely something we all saw coming. Like everyone who was a core part of the scene saw that coming. And when it comes to like support, how we supported him, I think for me it was definitely just having him around, taking him on trips, taking him to contests. And then there's like people like Domi Bolsert, who runs and like kind of founded the Biroma bike team. He's definitely someone who had a huge impact on Hoopy, and I think he's very lucky. He had a lot of good people in his life, and that mixed with talent and the ambition he has couldn't have come any other way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic to watch from the outside. I mean, I've been, as I said before we recorded, I've been watching it for the last 5 years or so, and it's just been fantastic to see. As obviously a lot of people in his corner, and I think we're all just stoked for him to to get where he's going. And so yeah. I'd love to help him more if I can, and so yeah, it will definitely be interesting to have him on, and which we will be relatively soon. So maybe to wrap this, kind of discussion up with in terms of the development and the pathways for young riders. I mean, when you are looking at young riders, I mean, what does it take today to be a successful dirt jumper, to be a successful slopestyle rider, to make it internationally?
I mean, most of all, you have to be 100% in. Like, you have to, I feel like you can't really half-ass it and be like, oh yeah, that would be cool. You have to like find the passion and give it all, like actually give it all. You have to like train all of your friends, mostly like all of your friends have to be a part of the same scene. And then you must be willing to push too. Like, I ride a lot with people. I really enjoy talking to people when I ride. Like, even if I'm in Skills Park and there's kids there I don't know, I like to tell them like, hey, you look like you want to try a backflip. And then it has to be like, you have to want to try a backflip. And if someone's here to help you, you should probably take advantage of that. Like, that's where you notice. You should like, you have to give it all. You have to be ready to give it all, and that's how you definitely succeed. And most of all, definitely, everyone says this, and it is so true. You have to have fun.
Well, we're getting a bit, slowly but surely, we're getting towards the end of our time. Bryson, do you have anything else you wanted to chip in?
Yeah, actually, when I first came to Zurich, I was kind of like looking for people to ride with and people to talk to, like just kind of get into the scene. And at Biroma, they mentioned your name, and they told me, yeah, you can speak to Chris because he speaks English. So yeah, he's actually American, and they actually mentioned that your name is Swiss Chris, and so I was like, okay, but he's American, but you call him Swiss Chris? I don't understand. So what's the story behind that?
So the story behind that is my first year coaching at Highland, I had a kid who was doing like this Tilt Med Highland program. It was like a school program where you went to school and like three or four times a week you had the full afternoon riding bikes at Highland. And it was like a scholarship thing. And so it was Alex Fletcher. And he's the guy who gave me the name. I remember this. He was like, oh, we should call you Swiss Chris. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, let's just make sure it doesn't hit the internet. So that doesn't start. And then the next video that came out, the guy, Adam, who edited the edit, was he uploaded it, Swiss Chris doing tricks at Highland. So yeah, it hit the internet pretty quick. The name was out. In America, everyone calls me Swiss or Swiss Chris. In Switzerland, no one does. At first, I really didn't like it, but it's kind of become pretty cool to have like that nickname in America. And even like in Whistler, I've been in Whistler and talked to people, and then someone's like, "Oh wait, you're Swiss Chris?" I'm like, "Oh wow, it's made it to Canada too." So yeah,
Canada,
that's how the name was born. Canada, yeah. There you go.
New dude about it. Well, right on. I think we're really getting towards the end of our time. I see the
pizzeria wants to kick me out.
Pizzeria wants to throw you out. So let's just wrap it up with our closeout questions. Let's just briefly go through these. Our first ones. I mean, we have 3 questions. The first one is, tell us a little bit about the bike that got you really stoked on riding for the first time.
My first bike, or my first jump bike, the bike I bought after that guy took me to a skate park, or we went to a skate park, was a Kona Stuff 26 dirt jump. It was the Paul Bass signature model from that year, and I loved it. It was bright green and just like a full-on dirt jump mountain bike. So that's the bike that got me stoked. And I actually did listen to the last couple podcasts, and I'm hearing out that a lot of people come with that Kona thing.
Oh yeah, the Stinky. The Stinky is the OG downhill bike for everyone, pretty much.
There you go. And the Kona's the OG for dirt jumpers.
Okay, there you go. All right. Well, then the second one is it's a bit out there. It's special, like we are. Imagine you're Harry Skidini and you're a bike magician extraordinaire. and you can make riding a bike more awesome for anyone by the stroke of a magic dropper post, what would you do?
Oh man, I'd just have insane trails, jump spots, downhill trails, enduro trails everywhere. That's what I'd want. Trails everywhere, like triple the amount of trails we have. And that's something I think would be cool. Just have some variety there. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
If you're going to have triple the amount of trails, that means you're going to have to put in triple the amount of effort to make a perfect skid. What would it look like?
Oh, man. Not sure how it should look like, but I'm pretty sure I know what it should sound like. And I want it to have the sound of everyone who sees it just losing their shit, going crazy, loving it, freaking out. And yeah, that's I think how a perfect skid should sound.
Truly.
Nice. That's a new one. I love it. All right,
Thanks.
Chris, and thanks again for sitting down with us tonight. I know it's you're on a special trip to go ride your bike. Just to wrap up, if listeners have any questions or want to learn more about Swiss Chris, where can they find you?
Definitely easiest on Instagram at Chris Räber with Raeber. Yeah, I generally answer anyone who wants to get in touch, so I'm looking forward to if someone does want to get in touch.
Sweet. Well, we also put that up in the show notes, and I think there's nothing else to say. But well, enjoy your riding tomorrow. It looked fantastic from the videos I saw today, and have a great weekend,
guys. You too. Thanks so much for having me. It was a blast, and really looking forward to future podcasts from you guys.
Ciao.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Ciao, ciao.